Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Dark Sky Photography. I'm Geraint and tonight I'm going to image Jupiter, its Galilean moons and Mars. So tonight we've got good weather. The jet stream has moved north of us and so we should have some good atmospheric seeing conditions. And also Mars is in occultation this week and it's not been as close to us since the year 2022, so definitely worth looking at Mars. The last time I did this was last month and my image wasn't very impressive. I'll show you the image of Mars I got last month now. And the Jupiter, I want to capture its Galilean moons. And to see those best, I want to try and create motion. So I want to do a sequence of images of Jupiter and its moons and then animate that sequence so we can get the motion on Jupiter's surface and also the moons as we orbit Jupiter. And if we're lucky, we might see Europa disappear behind Jupiter and also the great storm eye appear in the lower third. So that'd be pretty cool. So I want to have a go at that. And so how are we going to do this? It's going to be with my Newtonian 200p telescope. This telescope has a 200mm diameter primary mirror, which is 8 inches in old imperial, and that's going to concentrate and gather the light at the bottom here. You can see the mirror through the top where the light enters. There's the mirror at the bottom of this light bucket, and then this light will be reflected back up the tube to a smaller secondary mirror, which will bounce the light into the eyepiece column here because that mirror is angled at 45 degrees. To keep everything in the middle of the eyepiece, the telescope is mounted on a German equatorial mount, the HEQ5 Pro mount. It's motorized and its purpose is to counteract the Earth's spin. Otherwise Jupiter, the stars, will just streak right through this eyepiece because we're looking at Jupiter with a high magnification scale, so things will move pretty quickly with high magnification. So yeah, the HEQ5 mount will help negate the spinning effect and keep things more or less still for us in the middle of this eyepiece. And once I've got, say, the planet Jupiter in the middle of this eyepiece, I can then swap it out for my camera. The best resolution I can get with my 200p telescope with this camera is also by using a Televue PowerMate, and this will magnify by 2.5 times the focal length of this telescope. And with this pixel sensor on this camera, it will be well matched to see detail on Jupiter's surface and hopefully Mars as well. If I increase the magnification, I may well not get any better resolution. I might have, say, the object a bit larger, but the details won't change too much. That's according to the math. If you want to see more about that process, I'll link you to my last video which I did on imaging the moon and planets. I'll put the link in the description below. But I do have a Televue 5 times, which I will try on Mars because it's smaller than Jupiter, just to see if it does have any noticeable difference on image quality. The other thing I'm doing is getting colour images. I don't want black and white, so I'm done away with the IR pass filter and I'm having this IR cut filter on the camera lens, and this allows the RGB channels to pass through. They're shorter wavelengths, but with good seeing conditions, those wavelengths shouldn't be impeded too much in our atmosphere. It'll be good clarity of seeing tonight, I reckon. We'll find out soon enough. And so, yeah, we're going to use the Optolong IR Cut Filter so we can get colour imaging of these planets. And so I'll put this in the telescope once I've seen the planets in the middle of my optical eyepiece. And then I will also put one of these Televues, the 2.5 times one, into the image train as well. Once I've got everything centered, I'll do it in stages. Otherwise it's going to be too difficult trying to find your planet with everything magged to the max. So I do it in stages, first the eyepiece, then the camera, then I attach the Televue, and hopefully it makes it easier to get my planets in view. And also then I can use a process called lucky imaging on the computer, where I can capture thousands of frames of images. And this Planetary camera has a fast data transfer rate, uses a USB-free connector, and so it enables me to do many thousands of images, as many as I need, and it's dependent on your computer hard drive size, because I'll be running through gigabytes of data. But by acquiring thousands of images, I can then use software to pick out the sharpest ones, and that's lucky imaging. Being lucky enough to get the sharp images in all those thousands that I'm going to take tonight. And so what I'll do now is take my telescope outside and start putting the equipment together, ready for tonight's session. It's still a little bit breezy though, so I'm going to put a windshield on my wall as well. And so without further ado, come and watch me how I set up my equipment outside. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is align the finder scope with the imaging optical train of my telescope, because at night, even after a star alignment, you're surprised if when the planet you hope to get in the middle of your eyepiece eye field is not there, and then you have to rely on the finder scope. So it's really important that you make sure the center of your finder scope matches that with your eyepiece of the telescope imaging train. And so during the day I'm going to aim the telescope at a roof of a house and go for an aerial, and then I'll adjust the finder scope centering point onto the top of that aerial, so it just stays faffing about at night. I'll do that now. And there we are, finder scope aligned to the telescope. Now I won't put a cap back on the finder scope because any slight movement, touches on the finder scope will probably knock it out a bit. So I'm going to leave it alone now and just put the telescope back into its standby hold position. I've also roughly pointed the telescope and mount to the North Pole area, and so that way polar alignment will be a bit easier to do as well later. Okay, my computer table is what this camera is presently on, which is the green recycling bin, and so I'm going to move that by the telescope later on and then put the computer on it. And so I'll also power up the telescope from the summer house behind me, and have everything ready to go when it turns dark. And so yeah, see you soon.
I could have I could have
Okay, so I'm properly aligned now. We're going to start the 2-star alignment process. It's still a little bit breezy here, so I'm glad we've got a windshield there. It's a little bit noisy, it's not perfect, but it's the best I've got at the moment. And so once I've pulled aligned, I'm going to start aiming at Jupiter, which is just up there. I'll show it shortly. Right, so we'll try 2-star alignment. Sirius, it's too low. I want another star. Capella, up there. So that'll be the first star to center the telescope on. Hopefully it'll go in that general direction. A lot of humidity this evening and dew. It's already all over the telescope. Still a bit breezy. And I've had to put dew shields even on my finder scope. I have to recenter the finder scope to match that with the main telescope eyepiece. Capella. Finally in my optical eyepiece, right in the middle. Now the next star. Procyon. Should be over there. We'll try Procyon. Ooh, it's behind the chimney a bit. I'm not sure I can get it. I need a chair too. Okay, just got it. Now, let's head for Jupiter. Okay, so I'm slewing towards Jupiter now. See how close we get. That's not bad. Okay, so Jupiter is right in the middle of my eyepiece, and so yeah, I can see the stripes of Jupiter and 4 of its moons. Tonight we got Io, Europa, Callisto and Ganymede all around Jupiter. Jupiter with the Canon 6D and the 100 to 400mm zoom lens. It can pick up the moons but not very well. And I'll show you those photos I did earlier with the Canon and a short video feed. And when you see that, you realise why you need a telescope. Okay, so I'm just going to use my Televue PowerMate times 2.5. Jupiter on my screen is not quite zoomed enough, so I'm just recentering it, ready for the Televue PowerMate. Nice and carefully, I don't want to disturb the focusing. That's tight. Right, let's see how off-center we are now. Time to refocus. And rotate the camera. And recenter. Trying to get all the moons on. Okay. I can't get Callisto one, so I'm going to get 3 moons to the right of Jupiter, which is Io, Europa and Ganymede. Yeah, well, I have 3 moons and Jupiter. Better than no moons. Okay, I'll just switch the other camera and I'll show you what I've got on my screen here. Okay, I'm not sure I'm going to stick with this. I think I'm going to instead center Jupiter more into the screen, into the middle. And we'll forget about this far out moon here, which is Ganymede, and we'll go for Callisto, Io and Europa. So I'm going to center Jupiter more across now. I'm going to raise the exposure up just to make sure we've got a bit of the moon on. And the moon's just coming in there. And just rotate the camera a little bit and recenter. There. I just think it'll be nicer having this moon moving on the left of Jupiter and these two to the right, and that will keep Jupiter more in the middle of the screen. I think it's a more aesthetically pleasing animation to have moons either side of Jupiter. Okay, so let's bring the exposure right down again. So another moon is there, there and there. I can just make it out. Okay, so we'll do these every 5 minutes and we'll start now. 3000 frames. And again, ooh, bit of wind there. We're getting a good frame rate. 140 frames per second. Not bad. Okay, so this is the method of repeat. We'll do a few of these. Yeah. There's the telescope. Computer box and mouse on top. Our telescope is aiming at Jupiter. That's the Orion constellation. And Jupiter is a bright planet in the middle of your screen there. The moon is pretty bright tonight. Let's show you that. Right behind the chimney of my house there. To the right of the moon, and just above my house, in the middle of the screen, is Mars. I'll be after that before long. And back round to the current area of interest. Jupiter. Which is just to the right of the constellation of Orion. You don't see a lot of nebulosity tonight because of a bright moon. back to my telescope. I'm doing intervals of 5 minutes of image acquisition, and one should be ready to go any second now. All the timer. Just making sure Jupiter is in the middle of my computer screen. I don't have to reset it before the timer goes off. I think I'll be okay on this one. I might have to recenter a bit on the next one. There we go. Time for another video acquisition. Start again. I think I'll have a cup of tea. Okay. See you soon. Okay, so we've just finished the imaging session on Jupiter. We have Callisto there, we have Io there, and it was Europa which has gone behind Jupiter. And so our Galilean moons, only 2 are now in view, with Europa having passed behind Jupiter earlier. So I'm hoping I've got enough sequences of my videos of Jupiter and the Galilean moons to create a nice animation showing movement of the orbital moons around Jupiter. And so I'll do that in post-processing later, and now I'll move over to my next task of the night, which is trying to image Mars. Camera out, eyepiece back in. Okay, let's select Mars and send it on its way. Mars is straight up there. Might be quite close, so let's check it. Little adjustment. That's centered right in the middle of the eyepiece now, so let's switch out for the camera. Okay, so I've got Mars on the screen. Slight adjustments on the centering again. We're pretty good on the centering here, so I'm going to try and focus as best as I can, and then I'll do some runs on fire capture. Yeah, we've got some detail here. I'll show you in the other camera now that I've got Mars pretty well focused on the computer screen, so let's switch cameras. So here on the computer we have Mars in the middle. Let's zoom up for you. And there's a little bit of detail I can see. I can see the plains, the Arabia plains, and I think that's the northern ice cap. And so this is worth shooting at, let's say, 10,000 frames, because I'm going to get pretty good frame rate. It looks like I get 140 frames per second. I might have to drop the gain down a little bit just to bring the histogram to 70%, maybe a bit more. Okay, so we'll try around 60 to 70%, and let's hit this now at 10,000 frames. And doing that many frames will hopefully allow a few sharp ones to come and be part of the image stack for further processing. Okay, so I've done 10,000 images on Mars, That's the video capture acquisition, and I'm going to go for a 5x Televue Barlow. Need to magnify it a bit more because Mars is a smaller planet than Jupiter, tiny in my computer screen, but this will push the limits of my telescope's ability of seeing, and so it might not be an improvement, but it's worth a go. Clarity looks pretty good, and we're getting the Arabia Desert Plains, Syrtis Major landmass, and I can see the North Polar ice cap on Mars, so that's pretty cool. So let's see if we can get a bit more with this. Okay, the fun bit. Trying to get in the middle of the camera screen and refocus. Okay, so we've got it centered. Now I'll focus it. Yeah, definitely seeing some detail here, so I'll just set the exposure properly and then we'll do another imaging run. 10,000 image acquisition again, so yeah, this looks quite nice. The 5x Barlow might be doing me justice on this occasion, and it's only because the clarity is seen is probably pretty good up there in the atmosphere. Yeah, I'm hopeful it'll be a nice image. I'll show you on the other camera now. There's Mars right there, and I can see the pointy bit of a dark landmass quite nicely on the screen, and that's probably the Arabia Desert Plain and the North Pole cap there. And so coming to 9,000 frames now of this image run. And I'm only going to do one image run. I'm not going to do multiple image runs because the hard disk drive fills up a lot. You know, it takes a lot of gigabytes, all these image acquisitions. There we are, image acquisition done. I'll just zoom this up for you. Oops. See what you think. Definitely some detail here. Be interesting to see how it comes out in post. Yeah. Moon above my house. Mars above my house. A little faint orange dot up there, that's Mars. Okay, and so that's the end of the night for me. I've got a good few videos of Jupiter and its Galilean moons, and I will try and animate the sequence into a nice motion picture for you to check out tomorrow. And also I'm hopeful of Mars, the Martian planet. I've got much better detail of its surface than I did on my last attempt. So yeah, I'm going to take all the data into the house and process it tomorrow, and I'll use a couple of programs. Autostakkert, that's the best one for picking out the sharpest images from the video acquisitions of Jupiter and of Mars. And so yeah, let's see if lucky imaging pays off, and then I'll move the stacked sharpened image into another program called Registax, and Registax is great for sharpening up the finer surface details of those planets, and I'll finish them off in Photoshop. So I'll show you a bit of how I do that tomorrow. And for you guys, tomorrow is going to happen like now. Okay folks, welcome back. It's the day after the night of imaging Jupiter, its moons and Mars, and so I'm on the computer again, and I'm going to open up Autostakkert, and we're going to process the video files I captured using the file capture software. And so I'm using Autostakkert version 3.14 for Windows, and I'm going to open the first file which I can find in my fire capture image library. So there's Jupiter. Double click and we've got a bunch of video files here. Let's just do the last one, see what that one looks like. We'll just open it. There we can see Jupiter on the screen. And so with this software we just need to select planet, add image stabilization icon here, and then we've got the yellow cursor centering on the planet. Make sure dynamic background is ticked. The quality estimator I used Laplace Noise Robust 5. Local is highlighted, and what we need to do now is just analyze this image sequence. If you look at the status, we can see the red to green and the blue box, and so we know it's an RGB file. And also on the stack options, make sure TIFF is selected. So we're just going to analyze this video now. Let's click analyze and we just wait for the software to do its job. And what it's doing is looking through all the images captured in this video sequence and seeing which ones are the best ones, and then we'll have a quality graph to look at, which we can use to decide how many of those images we can stack. So there's going to be a fair amount of rejection here, which is why I've done 3000 frames. Okay, so we've got the quality graph up, and if we look at these segments here, each segment represents 25%. The green line descends down from left to right. The 50% mark corresponds to halfway up this y-axis. And so we've got all the images above 50% quality, which is really good. I like to, on a graph like this, stack at least 20%, if not 25% with this quality. So I think I will stack 25%, because if you look at the 25% x-axis segment and run it up to where the green line is, we're achieving greater than 75% quality still. And so if you go over to stack options, I'm going to select 25, just pop it in there in green, and then underneath the boxes here, I don't tick normalize or sharpened, but I make sure I tick RGB align. And then we could save in folders, we can throw a free field name in, which I'm not going to bother, just get rid of that. And so now that we've selected the stack frame percentage, we can place some alignment points on the image on Jupiter. And so in the right hand image screen, we can go under alignment points, and there's auto-generated points here, or you could draw in your own. But I'm just going to select, say, 48, see what it looks like, and then select Place AP Grid. And that's put a lot of small and medium and large boxes over the planet Jupiter, and I think that's plenty for the computer to align this image sequence and stack all the images nicely over each other to maximize the image detail, so reduce blurring. And so with all the alignment points set, we can go back to the left hand box where stack is now highlighted, which is number 3 on the sequence, and I'm going to press it, and the software is going to go through the stacking process. It takes a little bit of time, this one, so I shall see you once it's done. Okay, and so the software has done its job. It stacked all the images in this image sequence, and we have now Jupiter sharpened to the best frames. And you can run the video sequence by just using the frame toolbar on the right hand menu screen. You can also zoom up Jupiter to see how it looks. Oh, might have a little red spot in the bottom of Jupiter there. And so these are the frames that were stacked by quality, really. So looks pretty decent. Got some good detail. Got the bands and that little red storm in the lower third of Jupiter. Nice to see that. Not looking at the moons yet, because I want to further process this image stack now in Registax, and that will further introduce better detail onto the surface of the planet Jupiter, and we should be able to see some moons as well. And so what I'm going to do now is close Autostakkert and go into Registax. So I'm using Registax 6 again for Windows. That's my main computer program. And so we're in Registax version 6. Let's select the image file that Autostakkert has done for us. So we're just going to libraries, into videos, into file capture, into Jupiter folder, and we should have an image of what Autostakkert has done. And there we have it. So we'll just open this image into Registax, and that's how it looks straight out of the box. And so Autostakkert has done a pretty good job of aligning all the slightly shaky, blurry video, getting the best image sequences together and stacked into this image for Registax to further improve upon. Just going to show you the full image. So again, it's difficult to see the moons, but they are there. I'm going to just concentrate on bringing out detail on Jupiter first. So I'm going to go to the right hand menu bar here and select View Zoomed, and we have a nice window of Jupiter zoomed in, so we can better see the effect of how we're going to sharpen using the process called wavelets. So on the left hand menu we have this box here, and we want to tick it as use linked wavelets. So let's tick that, and then we can move the top wavelet all the way across to a 100. And in the zoomed image of Jupiter you can see the effect, and so you already see how much it's sharpened and how much noise has been brought into the image as well. So when you sharpen an image you also introduce a bit of noise, and that's when you can use your denoise functions. So you can change the strength of the denoise just by ticking on this little arrow up, and it goes up in small increments. And so what I tend to do is denoise a bit first if there's some to reduce, and then I sharpen with a box next to it, again in small increments. So I'm going to sharpen up a little bit. Another bit of denoise. That looks pretty good. Again, it's up to you how much you want to denoise and sharpen the image to what you think looks nice. So a bit of practice is required here. I think I like this one. I'm not going to denoise or sharpen anymore. I'm going to keep the wavelet all the way to 100%. You can reduce it down if you think you've overdone it, just to fine-tune the sharpening and denoising effect. Maybe I'll drop it down to 90. Yeah, that looks alright. And then it's important you click the box here, do all. So I think we may have a moon here and here. The other moon should be around here. Okay, so I might need to increase the exposure of those moons, something I can do in Photoshop. But for now I will save this image as a TIFF, and then I'll go back to Autostakkert and process the next video done by fire capture, and I'll repeat the process for all the videos that I captured of Jupiter last night. And so I have maybe at least 15, 16 stacked images which I'll put into Photoshop, and I will bring the moons out a bit more, and then I will try and animate the sequence so we can see the orbital paths of the moons and the surface of Jupiter revolving. And so that would be nice added interest, not just the image, but we'll see movement of Jupiter's surface and the moons as well. And so that's the standard process. So I'll do that now, and I'll see you in Photoshop in a little while. So hi, we're in Photoshop now, and I've just loaded up my post Registax pictures of Jupiter. So I'm just checking them for quality, noise, things like that. And what I want to do is just to improve the appearance of the moons. They're a bit dim, so I'm going to make them brighter, and then I'll work a little bit on the surface of Jupiter. But really, Registax has done a pretty good job of these images. And so what I'll do, I'll just duplicate the layer first, and then I'll go to a dodge tool. Select midtones, exposure all the way to 100%. And with the little round brush here, I'm just going to press on each moon a few times till it brightens up a bit more. So all three moons that are present, I'm going to just make them more visible. So before, after. So that's pretty cool. They'll stand out a bit better now. And the next thing I want to do is just see what I can do with Jupiter. And so I'm just going to use a high pass filter. And I just want to see its outline, just the basic outlines. You know, if you increase the radius from 50, you're seeing everything. You don't want that, because the high pass filter, it sharpens up the outline shadows, and that's what I'm after. So 2.3 pixel looks okay. Press OK, and I'm going to change the screen blend mode to overlay. So before, after high pass, and if that's too much, we can just bring the opacity down a bit. Say about 53%, whichever to your taste. It's always trial and error here, Photoshop. But that's pretty good. A little bit noisy. Let's reduce the noise. So go to Filter, Noise, Reduce Noise. It's already in a pretty good setting. So strength of 5, preserve details 55%, reduce color noise by 10%, sharpen details 0. Well, that looks okay to me. Okay, so let's flatten the image. Just check the moons. Yeah. Moons look okay. And now we'll duplicate the image again. And we'll go into Camera Raw filter. And here we can just, I think clarity is the best effect here. So let's zoom up to 300%. Give a hand tool, bring Jupiter into the middle of the screen, and go into the effects menu and clarity, that's the one which will have the biggest effect. So let's increase the scale to the right. And you can see how Jupiter's bands have darkened already and become more defined with the clarity tool. So before, after, that's quite nice. And then we'll go to color. Maybe we could saturate it a bit more. And the vibrance, so don't blow out the colors. Before, after. Yeah, that'll do. Do we need to do anything about the noise? I think it's quite well controlled. If we go back to normal size, I think that'll do me. I'm not going to mess around too much with this image, so we'll click OK. And we'll just, again, before and after effect. So yeah, it cleans up the colours a bit, brings out more of the browns, darkens them, and I think it's a nicer picture. Okay, more differentiation between the rings on Jupiter there. Right, so I'm going to do that with all of the images, and then when we come back, I'm going to show you how to do the image sequence. And so let's save this. I'll flatten the image. And we'll save it. Okay, so I'll see you in a minute once I do all of the images like this. Okay, so I've applied all those changes to all my Jupiter images, and I've saved them back in my Jupiter folder, and I'm ready now to re-import them as a sequence so I can animate them with Photoshop. So yeah, under Photoshop you just go to the folder where you've got your images of Jupiter, and I'll call it Jupiter Europa Occultation, because that's what happens to Europa when it goes behind Jupiter, it occults. And so what you want to do is select the first image in this folder, but make sure you click the image sequence. You click the box there, highlight it, and then Photoshop will know to import all the other images after Jup 1 in sequential order. Now it'll ask you for a frame rate, and so you can choose any, but because I've only got, what, 15 images, a nice low frame rate I'm going to use. We'll try 3. Click OK. And what you should notice in Photoshop now is that there's a video timeline that's appeared in the bottom menu. If you go into Window, you can click the timeline off, but if you're doing a video, it's useful to have it on. And if Photoshop have imported all those images correctly, if you press play, it should play an animation. There we are. We have Jupiter and its moons animated, so we can see the orbiting moons and the surface detail of Jupiter rotating. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And so now all I need to do is render the video. I'm not going to manipulate it in Photoshop. I'm happy with all the images from what I've done earlier, so let's just render this. And so we're going to File, Export, Render Video, and you can call it what you want, Europa Occults, and then make sure you're under Adobe Media Encoder. You don't want Photoshop image sequence, you want the media encoder, because then you can select which format you want. QuickTime, H.264, your preset, high quality, there's plenty there, isn't there? But high quality will do me. Document size, don't need to change. The frame rate, I'm already happy at the frame I selected initially, which is 3 per second, and then you just click render. And it's as easy as that. That's the video rendered, and Jupiter and its moons will now be animated for you lot to look at. So I don't need to do much else. That's about it. I'll go back and do some images of Mars, and I'll use Registax and Photoshop to refine hopefully nice surface detail, because I think I got it better than my last attempt, and then I'll put Mars up for you to look at as well. So yeah, that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed watching this vlog. If you do, don't forget to give me the thumbs up and subscribe if you wish. Put some comments down below if you want. I can always answer any questions you may have about this process. But yeah, if you are going to go out and enjoy the night sky, just stay safe, but have a good time. And so without further ado, here's the images and videos that I've managed to get of Jupiter, the Galilean Moons, and Mars too. So hopefully I'll see you again. Take care.